Yeah, what up? We back with CT's RPT, Real Prison Talk with Wes. And tonight, I want to talk about how not only does prison have such a strenuous impact on families and mainly the children, but how much the act of actually going to prison, meaning the way you're taken away, can have such a drastic effect on young children. I was I was on a site. I was on a website earlier called prisonadvice.org, and I seen they had a piece on there titled "Collateral Damage." Now, in this piece, there was an article about a mother whose child was traumatized by the way the police had kicked her door down, ambushed her apartment, and dragged her husband off to jail. I didn't even know this lady, but I was moved by her story. And I think that my sympathy came from a place of commonality because I'm someone, I'm somebody that's had my door kicked in my fair share of times and has been dragged off to prison in front of my kids. And at the time, it wasn't until I was on the site reading about someone else's trials and tribulations before it made me think about my own situation. Because at the time, I never even thought about the effect that it had on my kids that was watching their dad get dragged off to jail. And it was so crazy. I remember the first time. I believe to this day my daughters are probably scarred from both incidents. But I remember the first time they came, they kicked the door in, they took me to jail. I was away for 3 years. And when I came back, my kids they do not like the police. And my youngest daughter, she was maybe 3, and my oldest daughter was about 7 or 6. But she was like 8 or 9 when I came home. And I remember I picked them up, and we was coming home from school one day. It was two separate incidents. One time we were coming home from school, and my neighbors had a situation, and there was cops outside of their house. I don't know what they had going on. There was cops outside their house, and I never wanted the police to know where I lived. So I was contemplating, should I even go in my house while all these cops is in front of my neighbor's house. And my daughter, who was must have been thinking the same thing I was thinking. I was just about to tell, right before I opened my mouth to tell my kids, like, let's go to the store or something. My daughter goes, Daddy, you want to just keep walking? And I'm like, hell yeah. And we went to the store and killed off some time. So they left. But I didn't even stop to think that this is a 8-year-old little girl who shouldn't have to worry about things like that's adult issues. You know what I mean? That's something that I should have kept her sheltered from. Not to mention there was a time that I was actually pulled over, and we were on our way. I think I had to get them some uniforms for school or something like that. So we were on our way to the store, and I got pulled over. And while I'm outside talking to the cops, both of my phones were inside the car. So kids are like sponges. That's the funny thing is what you think they don't know. A lot of times they know what's going on. You know what I mean? Or even got a gist of the idea of what's going on. Because I had two phones. At the time, the latest phone was the Galaxy S4, and I had the Galaxy Note. My Note was my what we would call trap phones. That was the phone that I sold drugs on. My S4 was for friends and family, you know. And when I got back in the car, the cops pulled me out of the car. I don't know, they must have thought that I was riding around with a couple of my homies or something, because once they found out like it was my kids that I actually was in the car with, they kind of like lightened up. But before that, they was like, "What are you doing with all this money on you?" I think I had about $4,000 on me or something. I had just got my kids, and I was on my way to get. I had just got my kids. I just got them registered in school, and I was taking them to go buy them basically everything that they needed, you know. So the cops were giving me a hard time about having this type of money on me, and then I told them my situation, like, yo, I got my kids with me. We about to go to the store and get school supplies and whatnot. And the cop at the time, at this time, I didn't even know I was under investigation. So the cop that was been investigating me, and I wasn't even I was too caught up in my life to even notice that the same cop kept pulling me over and kept harassing me. But he looked in the car and he seen it was my kids, and my 8 year old. I'm not too tall. My 8 year old was about almost my height at the time. So they must have thought that I was in the car with a couple of the homies, and they was gonna pull me over and catch some drugs on me. But I wasn't even on that type of time at that time. At that point in time. So he seen it was my kids. He was like, "Yo, let him go. This ain't the time." And he let me go. And I get back in the car, and my trap phone is missing. The first thing came to my head was, did the police come in here and take my phone? So I pick up my S4, and I call it, and it's ringing, but it's going straight to voicemail. Matter of fact, it's off. Somebody turned it off. And then I just looked back and I asked my daughter, because she had her head like in a video game, whatever. So I asked my oldest daughter, like, Star, you see, did the cops come in here and take my phone? And she reaches her hand in her pants and pulls my phone out. She stashed my phone in her pants. She called herself stashing my phone. Had it in her pants. Cut it off, put it in her pants. And at the time, I'm like, oh, you was looking out for your daddy, huh? Not even noticing that what I was subjecting an 8 year old child to, you know? Sometimes you got to get pulled out of the game to see how crazy a lot of your moves was, you know? This was a lifestyle that at 8 years old, she shouldn't even had to be privy to. But she loved her father, and out of fear of seeing him go to jail, because she don't seen the police kick the door in and drag him off last time she seen me have any interaction with them, she has to do the things that she feels she was doing to protect me, I guess, you know. Even with when she looked at me and said, "Daddy, you want to keep walking?" when the police was at my neighbor's house. And I remember I was in the cell thinking about it. And at the time, I was kind of glorifying it, like, yeah, that's my little rider. But tonight, when I was on the website and I was thinking about this lady and how her child is traumatized, it led me to think about my own situation, and that's just another symptom of trauma. You know, at 8 years old, kids supposed to be only thing they supposed to be worrying about is having fun and being a kid. You know, shouldn't have to worry about looking out for the police that's gonna take your father away or nothing like that. So that was probably why I was so sympathetic to the lady in the article that I was reading, you know. And it's a good website, prisonadvice.org. You know, there's a lot of stories on there, and I know a lot of dudes that's been in prison probably can relate to them. And if you got family members that's been in prison, you probably could even relate to them, or you could probably share the stories with them and help them open their eyes up, you know? Because sometimes you have to see it to understand it. When you live in it, there's a difference between living it and seeing it, you know? You live in it, sometimes the money, life is just going too fast for you to understand certain things, for you to take knowledge of what's going on sometimes. Sometimes it just go by so fast. Everything is moving so fast when you're in a fast life, you know? And that's, you know what I mean? That's just my little nugget of information for tonight. If you haven't by now, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on Instagram at wes.smith.129. And if you know anybody that you know want to be on the show, holla at me. I'm pretty sure February is coming. The way CT prison is, it's only the first week of the month where inmates are allowed to add numbers. So I got a couple homies that I sent kites out to that's probably going to be adding my numbers to their list. And I'm real optimistic about February, you know. Got some good interviews coming, some good shows coming up. I got some good ideas. And I'm going to keep, like I said, I'm going to keep being a voice for my brothers and sisters behind the wall. So until next time, peace.